And now for something completely different. What we've got is a few offcuts of gaming mats. It's going to be an experimental video. I've got 3 pieces of road here on the mouse mat material. This has come from Deep Cut Studios. It's just a few offcuts we're going to experiment with, just because people don't really like to cut up mouse mat when they've ordered it, because it's sometimes expensive, but just to get different varieties out of what you can do with just the simple bits of mouse mat with the the graphics on. We're going to see what we're going to achieve here. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to experiment and see what I can come up with. If you want, leave a comment on things that I might not think of and things that you might do, which just might help people who are searching for this kind of video to see if they can come up with some ideas and get their creative juices flowing. So if you want to leave a comment, feel free to do that. Right, so first things first, we're going to have a look at just how the mat cuts, so before we try anything ostentatious. So just on the corner here, I've just clipped out a piece with a pair of scissors. So we can just see there, it's quite a nice clean cut. And it wasn't a particularly sharp pair of scissors, but that's definitely the way I would recommend it, cutting with a pair of scissors. If you just try and score it and then try and chop through with a craft knife, it doesn't give quite a nice edge to that top mat material. So I definitely recommend using scissors if you're going to chop up your mouse mat. Okay, experiment number 2, we're just going to see how this weathers. So it was a nice straight line with the scissors, so I'm going to rough this up with my thumb and maybe the edge of the scissors and see how this this mouse mat handles itself. It does fray a little bit if you're being aggressive with it, but I doubt you would treat your mouse mat like this. It is fraying a little bit. We'll zoom in. So that's just starting to come away from the rubber, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. You're not going to treat your mouse mat like that, so that was under extreme circumstances there. So, right, so I'm just covering the basics here. What I've done is I've just basically cut this cobbled road out of the mat, because that was on a full-size mat like that, so that's been cut out. Just to show you what it looks like on a board that hasn't got any green on it, so you can cut that path straight out, and it can go on any kind of board. There is a little bit of green on there, but I think it adds something to the table. You always should have more than just one colour on your board. Gives it a nice camouflage effect, but as long as you've got your colours on your board, some basic colours, that will just fit in nicely, and it doesn't stand too proud on the board either. Now another good thing about, I suppose, mouse mat roads, it's been done for a long time, this kind of thing where you've got cutty out roads, is especially if you've got a board like the Games Workshop one, it's just going to fit right into that contour and flow with the board. I mean, if you've got a series of these, like these mats that I've got, obviously you just cut all the roads out and you bring them together like that, and you'd have a a nice road work. So it doesn't even matter if you've got a green board or not, that seems to work quite fine, especially if you're down a club. That's really easy to put away, it's not a problem. So here are the offcuts from the road. The road came from the centre, in that gap there, so I'm just thinking what you can do with these. So what I've came up with is you can put them on either side like that. You can do this with a lot of this kind of terrain where it makes a footprint, and you can class that as area terrain. Just makes something like a building like this just blend in. Fair enough, not under this grass because the grass is a different colour, but as you can see, the flagstones on the outskirts of that mat give that a nice section to go down on, so that's a clear indication of where the terrain begins and ends. So again, there's useful things to do with the offcuts, so as long as you're creative, you can come up with different things to do. Okay, I've gone for something a little bit more elaborate now. I've just cut out a random shape from just this long piece of mat, and we're going to use that to describe the area for area terrain. So if you've got a model that's the line until they move into area terrain. So it's a nice clear distinction on what is terrain and what isn't in these kind of games. Of course, I've just loosely and lightly dressed it up to tie in with, you know, a board that would be all green, so it looks like it stands out a little bit, but that's just got a little bit of cork and rock on it. But if you had a full table of that, that would blend in fairly nicely. The only thing I would say is these white lines, the more elaborate you get with your cut, you can see that on the edge of your mouse mat. If that's bothering you, which it would bother me, you could just get a pen and I've just coloured in the edge of it, and then that turns green again naturally, so that blends in with your board. So I'm just going to do a little bit more, and I'm going to experiment with just something else on this. Right, the experimentation continues. What I've done is I've done a little bit more with the green pen just to stop that white edge cropping up here. So this has been done with the green pen, so you can see the difference. So as you're going around with the green pen, the mouse mat does start to fray the more you abuse it. So I've experimented further. I've went round the corners with some super glue and locked that in, so now the fibres of the edge of the mouse mat are locked in, so that's not going to fray anymore. So that's a good thing to do if you're scared of that weathering over time, and it probably would the more you abuse it, because as you see, that's just from cutting it out there. So that's nice and locked in, so it's really going to be good for area terrain. You could use that for, you know, a wood, or we're going to try it on just a grey area for something like a swamp. So I'm surprised how nicely that blends in. I mean, you could go wild with the rocks and really make a thing of it, but even with minimal rocks and blending techniques, that's sort of clearly a swamp if you're playing a game. And there's a Inquisitor checking the swamp for heresy. Alright, so just expanding on the swampy matter that I'm going for, because I think that's probably how this looks best. Well, this piece of mouse mat, I've decided to super glue some of the tufts to it. See how those handle, because obviously if this is going to be in your drawer or in storage, you don't want those to drop off, so they've just been super glued on. They seem like they're not going to come off, so that's pretty good how the mouse mat can take that super glue. I mean, typically they're going to be stored in any old way if you've got them down a club and be abused, no doubt. But that seems pretty good. That's not going anywhere. So there you go. Yeah, I mean, you can get even more creative. I'm going to try and stick some cork to that, see what happens there. Alright, we're going even further with the super glue now, so I've stuck some cork. Went for the cork because there's some sandy elements in there, so it looks quite appropriate. But I've even stuck on a piece of slate there just to see what happens with different sort of properties. I mean, that's stuck on, but that would come off with some abuse. So it depends how you plan on keeping these, but it is possible. So I mean, that is stuck on. That's going to survive. I think the cork's going to fare a little bit better. Yep, that's doing fine. I don't think. It's starting to give a little bit. Obviously, the bigger rocks you're going to have, the more tipping point you're going to have. But I mean, that's gameable. That would go in a drawer, stacked flat on top of another one, on top of another one. You wouldn't have any problems there. But that's starting to look pretty convincing. I think that would work quite well on any board. And if you dress it up to fit in nicely, that'll, you know, you got elements of that around the board, that'll look good. So I mean, another thing I was thinking, if you get the big mats and you want to cut them up, you can create something like a bridge to go over, because normally it's hard to find a decent sort of water that can go with the board that you've already got that you can put a bridge on. For example, let's say this was all greeny swamp and you cut a nice shape of a river, or if it was water, or, you know, I've had this Pegasus bridge for so long now, it's never been used because there's nothing for it to cross. But that would be a good idea. Having long bits of this mouse mat, you could cut them out in any shape and design your own sort of waterworks, and then if you've got Pegasus bridges like that or any other kind of bridges, there's something for them to cross, because sometimes it's hard to find that kind of terrain. So I've cut out the rest of the roads now. I've just done the obvious, which is cut them out, you lay them on any kind of board, and that's gonna work well. I mean, cobblestones don't really say 40k to me, but that would be good for Age of Sigmar, any Second World War games, that sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, this is an old concept of getting things like roads and cutting them out and laying them down. You used to get stuff like this online or things of that nature, but with the mouse mat being non-slip, it's good that the roads don't shift around too much. That's a big benefit from the past of that sort of thing. So I mean, I've got a lot left over now. These are the offcuts of the road. I mean, that even works well on a grey table with the cobblestones, sort of blending that in. But I've got those cobblestones offcut. I've got this bit of beachy sand and stuff. So if you can think of anything I can do with that, then leave a comment and I'll have a go. But for anyone wondering what it's like to cut up mouse mat material, then there we go. I would recommend putting super glue on the edges, and that's the only thing you'd have to look out for. But it's nothing to be afraid of, it's pretty easy to do. So if you want roads, easy roads on your board, easy swamps, that sort of thing, where you don't have to actually do much to the top, it's already there for you. It's a pretty easy thing to do.